young couple raises a glass to a new life together in a new apartment. But before Rob can even take a sip, he notices that there is something strange inside the ice. He picks it up and shows it to his wife. To get a closer look, Gail takes a magnifying glass and is convinced that inside the ice is a miniature mammoth with several spears piercing its body. Wondering if there is anything else like it, Gail opens the cooler again and is surprised to find a tiny lost civilization. This old refrigerator was left to them by the previous owner of the apartment. Right on the ice lies an entire medieval city where the little people live and don't notice the two giants watching them like a movie. These little people have moved incredibly fast as they continue to build their city and persevere in their progress. Gail points out that this is an early medieval city and the woolly mammoths died out thousands of years before the Middle Ages. Rob doesn't understand much about history, so he just goes along with it. Rob and Gail decide to bury the little frozen mammoth in a flower pot. Having buried the mammoth, the couple open the refrigerator again and are shocked by what they see. The tiny civilization has developed at a tremendous rate, and now it is undergoing an industrial revolution with all sorts of buildings, factories, and roads being built. But the couple were gone for only 10 minutes, and several centuries had already passed for the tiny civilization. So Gail concludes that time goes faster in the Frieza. Watching the tiny civilization, Rob wonders if these tiny humans see him and Gail as gods.
Look at these two staring at us all day.
I don't know. I'm tired of looking at that broccoli eater.
Only a few seconds pass, and the tiny civilization begins to change again, and now modern buildings are being constructed at a tremendous rate. Rob notices some things flying around, and Gail realizes they are airplanes. She also notices new skyscrapers and concludes that the little civilization has reached the present. Rob then notices something strange and moves closer to get a better look. The rocket blast makes Rob's face look like a giant tomato, and it makes Gail laugh, and Rob starts to panic, pointing out that a real apocalypse has begun in the Frieza. Gail can't take him seriously, however, so she hands him a toaster for him to see how ridiculous he looks. There were screams coming from the Frieza, and the situation was getting worse and worse. Rob and Gail can't do anything but stand by and watch as the tiny civilization is overrun by violence, screams, and more explosions. A frustrated Gail closes the refrigerator, thinking that the tiny civilization is over. Trying to pass the time, the couple orders a pizza. After a couple hours, Rob can't stand it and says they need to reopen the Frieza. Gail reminds him that they have to accept the possibility that civilization didn't survive, but Rob goes to open the refrigerator anyway. Amazingly, the small civilization has turned into a futuristic city. Rob is in awe of how beautiful and advanced everything is. And at that moment, a building resembling an adult toy appears right in front of them. In the center of the tiny city, a huge pyramid-like structure also appears, growing in height. It had bridges connecting around it, through which it received power from other buildings. Suddenly, however, the structure turns into a diamond-shaped fortification that glows very brightly. Then it engulfs the entire city, and the development in the tiny civilization reaches its climax. The resulting glow looks like a star and emits beautiful flashes of light that begin to fly around the couple's kitchen. Rob and Gail watch with delight and wide smiles as the glow illuminates every corner of the room. The lights then return to the Frieza and gather into a sphere before suddenly disappearing. When they see this, the smile on their faces turns to sadness. Rob asks if the little people will ever come back, to which Gail replies that it's unlikely. Rob pulls the refrigerator plug to accept that the little people are gone. Gail hugs her husband to comfort him, then closes the refrigerator. The next morning, Rob makes coffee and drinks it with Gail. Although they don't say a word, it's pretty obvious that they can't stop thinking about the tiny civilization in the Frieza. So they open the Frieza again, and inside it is